Hey guys, it's Matthew Martin, and I have with me a man who needs no introduction, but you know him as Edsel Charles with Market Graphics Research, going now almost 40 years, I believe 37 years this year. A man who we have heavily relied on for his wisdom, for his advice and expertise over decades, a dear friend and a confidant, and a man I look up to greatly. And really excited to have him here with me to talk about the market and where things are right now. We're in kind of the back half, third quarter, fall of 2024, an election coming up. And Edsel, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matthew. So the market research side, the little background, I think is important so that we can understand our perspective, where we come from. Decided when we started the company, now 37 years ago, that we would not get any information from anybody else. And we would physically pull all the courthouse plats, all the records, planning commission stuff, track all the agendas, and then get in the car and go and physically count everything every 4 months. Decided not to do it quarterly, but every 4 months, because that was, 3 times a year was plenty. And what it has done, it has given us the inside track on things like it's almost hard to imagine. What we couldn't figure out, just to have a little fun with you, what we couldn't figure out is why our stuff was so accurate. I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds like maybe he's being arrogant to try to look at this, but that's not the motivation. We in the last year and a half tried to figure out why. It's not that we're so smart. How'd that ever happen? Well, we discovered something in the industry that the first sign of a builder who's getting in trouble is that there is a extra finished unoccupied home. And then there's another one, because the builders are building, they're not selling them. So then the question became, how many finished unoccupied new homes could you have? Well, we had created software over the years. It's all our own software. Tried to create this thing to try to figure this out, and we couldn't for the life of us figure it out. We don't know what the heck we did that we were so accurate. We just didn't know. We narrowed it down to the finished unoccupied count, but the only way we could figure that out is if we took our software, copied it over, dismantled it, and discovered that probably nearly 70-some%, we don't know the exact percentage, of all that's done is from the finished unoccupied count. We're the only one now in the United States that hand counts subdivisions. Nobody else does it. There used to be two. It takes a lot of effort and work, and the other company backed out and they shut down. So having said that, that finished unoccupied count became amazing. By the time we went through and dug up all of our stuff, we've fallen, and it's all important for the background to answer a single question for you of where we at. Well, we knew you had to have 24% to 28% of everything going in a market that were sitting there finished unoccupied. 24 to 28% of everything going in new construction in a market, multiple counties, sitting there finished unoccupied on a given day, to have an adequate amount for model homes, for a small builder to have something to show, and for turn, for public, for buying. If you're under 24%, you're underbuilt. If you're over 28%, you're overbuilt. And to get to 32% and you're there for almost a year, you are in a recession. It was astonishing how we could determine if you're underbuilt, overbuilt, or in a recession, and if you're trending one direction or not. We could do it down. So we created a national chart that goes back all the way back into 14, because we really got rolling with this concept and proving it out. It absolutely proves out exactly.
Okay.
So let me tell you about the national situation right now, where we're at. We are right at 28%. It's 27.9 something, 92 or something. We're right. It's, in other words, over 28% is to be overbuilt, and under 24% is to be underbuilt. We have been coming up. So what did we bottom at? Well, in May of 22, we couldn't put enough houses out there. We couldn't keep up because the existing home market wasn't putting enough existing homes out there for sale. People were afraid to list their house. They're going to get sick with COVID. And we dropped all the way down to 12, just better than 12% of everything going finished and occupied. If I'm under 24%, I'm underbuilt. A 12 percentage point spread. We tried to figure out, Rick and I, how long was it going to take to get from 12% to 24? We said we felt from our data that it would go up at the rate of 1% a month. So if that were true, that would put us at 24% in 12 months in 1 year to go from 12 to 24 at 1% a month. And when we counted all off, we were within 0.2 of a percentage point. So I'm telling everybody now, they look at it and say, wow, that's really impressive. And I tell everybody what that is luck. You know, you can't say you're so doggone smart. What it tells you, though, is that there is a pattern of behavior. And what I watched it do, it went above 28, 29, it put it up a little bit right through there. And then it peaked in April of 24. And it started coming down. And at the first week of September 24, it came back to just a hair under 28%, back in the range that I'm comfortable with. Well, let me tell you another piece of that. We tried to study to find out what's the interest rate at which the market moves that the public will accept. It's 5.75% to 6.25%. 5.75 to 6.25%. In the early part of 23, I said we would reach that at the end of August 24. And I was off by 0.4%. It irritated me. You know, I think it sounds crazy, right? And but you know why? Because the Federal Reserve was using data from the government that had lied, said there was 850,000 more people employed than there really was. Had they known that, they would have dropped that a quarter point, and it would hit right there. So there's something else that the industry believes, and I'll be quiet if you want me to. There's something the industry believes. It's an absolute lie. I don't know. As I'm telling everybody now in meetings, I just had a huge meeting this morning, not huge, but 50 people or so, with Colliers International. I told everybody, I says, there's something you believe it's a lie. I think the whole country believes a lie. We think that when the market is going up in housing, it will eventually find a top and come down. Or it's going down, and eventually it'll find a bottom, and it'll start going up. That's a lie. That's not how it works. The economics don't work that way. When it's coming down, in the early part of 23, I told everybody it's coming down now. It's going to reach a place in November of 23, and we think we're pretty close. And it's not going to go up or down. It's going to go flat. And what it does, so the question becomes, when do you find a flat place? Whether you're going up or down. And how long do you stay in that flat place? And that flat place has a little jiggly thing that goes up and down with interest rates. And then eventually reaches a place, sometimes 5, 6, 7 months, 8, 10, 9, 10 months, and it'll follow a modest curve coming up, and then it'll start coming up after the flat place. That's how it really works. And we said that it would come down, turn in November. We think that's pretty close in 23, and that by August of 24, we would start to see that interest rate thing turn. I think all that's happening right now. So the question is, of all the cities we're in, and I don't know, but we may have crossed the board and become pretty close to the largest in the country, pretty close. And how many of the cities that we're doing is to the place where they're coming up in a curve? Was there some that started a little early? Yes, there is. There's 3, 4, 5 weeks early. Is there some that are going to be a little late? I don't know. If I had that quarter point, I don't think so. Even one of the worst markets was Birmingham for a little bit, but that's turning, and you can watch everywhere. We're starting to turn and come back. So where we're at going forward, I just don't see the recession mindset, and I'm seeing the market there, but we're all bouncing on the flat place. We've come down, and we're everybody I talk to is bouncing along the flat place. They're just happy to be okay at a low level, but at least they're not going down anymore, and the inventories have come down. So having said that, Matthew, let me just make one more comment, then I'll open for a question again. There's something coming in the housing industry in the whole United States. That's devastating. That's scary stuff. And I'll come back and address the election in a minute. I should have done that already. If you look at the land development and the lots availability and subdivision availability, I have cities that in the last 3 to 4 years, depends on where you pick, and a little bit different between each market. Take a look at Nashville. Nashville, for instance, has, in the last 4 years, I just remember to count, I used it this morning, we are off like 111 subdivisions that have not been put into the planning commissions, and it's not coming from the development world as new subdivision. They're not coming. In 4 years, we dropped 100 subdivisions or better. That's insanity. I mean, that's just crazy. Then we have, the second question is, of all the subdivisions the last 4 years, have we replaced the ones that were built out? And when you start getting to the place you're 69, 70, that we haven't replaced, that's the equivalent of a small county or 3/4 of a pretty good sized county that's disappeared and it's not there. Then the third question is, of all the developed lots that are out there, because we hand count every subdivision every 4 months. If you look at it every 4 months for 10 years, it's really easy. Has the developers been able to replace the lots that the builders are taking? That's all. We could sit here and reason why. That's not what I'm here for. Is a development community capable of putting enough lots? And they're not. Nashville it's not in Nashville. So you have three things. We're not bringing in new stuff, big time, and we're not replacing subdivisions, big time, and we're not putting the lots on the ground. So, and now we're about to turn the corner going up, and now things are going to get better, and interest rates are coming down. Unbelievable. So when did we get the same amount of trouble as last time, where we had shortage of lots? No, it's much worse. The developers, the builders, they're thinking twice as far ahead. They generally are 2 to 3 years ahead. 4 is long. They got to be 3 and 4 and 5 years ahead. They got 6. Depends on who they are. If they're customer, semi-custom. A lot of ingredients to that. They've got to be able to plan further. They got to know what's going on. They got to find a way. Otherwise, they're not going to have the lots that deliver the houses. And I think that by the middle of 25 to the middle of 26, we've got a sucker of a problem in our hands. It's an absolute stinker.
Yeah, I don't see prices going down, and I think you're exactly right. There's this mindset that people are anticipating, well, when does the bottom drop? And that's not seeming to happen. I know in July, probably one of the most significant months numerically in terms of what the market did to watch is in July. I forgot who put it out, but it was someone with the ENAHB and this is national, that it was a 15% increase year over year in new home sales. Hold on, I said that wrong. A 10%, a little over 10% increase in new home sales nationally in July. But in July, it was over 15% down year over year in new home starts. And I'm thinking to myself, which is exactly what you're saying. We're selling, we're chugging along. The market is improved over last year. We're kind of flatlined. We've had a couple good months, but I would say most months this year, from what I've seen anecdotally, is we're just kind of humming. But new home starts across the board for small, mid-size, and even national home builders, not a lot of people are building more, and some of that has to do with just the scarcity of lots.
I think that all of that is true. And whatever, here's where we're at. We still have some places that we have a degree of caution, where there's some parts of the market's overbuilt. So you've got this flat place. Slowly but sure, it's going to come out. It's not going to go out as fast as they'd like to see it. And we're headed there, no doubt in my mind. So what would the presidential election do to screw that up? I think if on the Democrat side, if Harris gets in, the housing market's going to be better than if Trump got in. And that's going to probably be true for 8-9 months. And then the Fed's going to start to print money, and it's going to be a bugger problem. And they've not learned their lesson, I don't think. I'd just be surprised, because they were dishonest in how they put it out there last time. And then what's going to happen? They're going to go through all this foolishness of giving things away and print money, and all that's going to happen. And inflation is going to come back, and they're going to try to overreact to that, and then it's downhill from there with that group. If Trump gets in on the Republican side, it's not going to go nowhere. Housing is going to be just fine. The only thing it's going to do is create an optimism amongst buyers, and because we're not going to be socialists, and they're heading that direction. And I think after about a year and a half, you'll see the housing market firm up, and it's going to be knock it out the park. Yeah. So I think that for the home builders, probably they win both ways, ironically enough. But what the public is doing under buying habits right now, and I don't ever take in consideration, I told you, the presidential election in all these 37 years. But I am doing it now because there is a silent majority that's just waiting, and they're going to vote. And that's all going to come out. That's why they're having a problem with the polls. Because in the last time that Trump ran, there was 4 or 5 percentage points that they couldn't pick up, because that people doesn't interview. They don't talk to people. They don't do polls. They don't answer questionnaires. They don't do none of that junk. Most of them, I don't do that. If they'll call my opinion, I don't even give it. I'm in that world. So I think that we're headed toward that thing. It's turning, or it's already in a curve coming. It's going to go like that, going up. And I think it's going to get better, simultaneous to the lot situation getting worse. Mm-hmm. And now it's going to get much worse. It's not unusual to find a city that the lot count's going down 1,000 lots a year. Not unusual to find that. And what it is unusual is to find any city where the market is kept. Omaha, Nebraska is like that, because they have a bonding process for doing land development, and you can be okay. But there's a couple markets like that. Otherwise, everywhere is a stinking nightmare coming on the land development side. It's just awful.
I had a friend that's reached out to me, and he asked me, he said, "Is this a good time to buy?" And I said, "Well, is a home an investment?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "And you experienced what we experienced in 2020 and 2021 and all that crazy, right?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I will tell you that if you can buy with the interest rates the way they are at this moment, you need to buy, because I think you're going to find we're there again within the next 12 months. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, here's the deal. I really believe that we're in a time right now for the buyers between now and the end of January 25. If you're going to buy a house, you buy it then.
So you got 4 or 5 months.
February, yeah, we got February 1st and after. In the middle of February, it's too late. Because I really believe between now and the end of January, you're going to have it because the prices are backing up. And you know why? Because the builders, during that COVID thing, raised their prices for lumber increase, raised their prices for labor increase, but they had such low inventories, they were able to raise their overall profitability. And that went up from 2-3% all the way to 5%. And then nobody wants to give it up, but they're having no choice now because some of the small builders are competing with them and they're beating them because they don't mark up the same way. And but some of the nationals, I know some of the nationals that were in 4 or 5% extra net to their bottom line. Well, let me show you about that. Only 5% of the builders in the United States can get to 10% net before tax. Only 2% of the builders in the United States can get to 12% net before tax. They were at 3-4 points more than that, above that. And now that's starting to come down. I'm watching it come down. And how long is that going to go on? To the end of January 30, maybe 30, which is right in there, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then February 1st, it's done. 8 o'clock in the morning. I really believe that there's a break coming. And I believe by the middle of February, it's too late. So you tell your friend that if he's going to do something, I wouldn't do it today, by the way. I might be 2 months down the road, but I'm going to do that. I might do it if Harris gets in. He's not going to see that initial positive thing. The builder's going to get panicky. They'll dump because they don't know that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do that either. I think that the presidential election is not as big a deal as anybody ever thought. All those years I not taken into consideration. But the only reason I'm doing it now is because whether we're going to become socialists or not.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, you got a question.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for obviously what you do and what you've done for us over this last summer. We're celebrating 19 years. And I have a lot more gray hair than I started. But you were paramount to, I think, an era of home building that we all remember also, not just in COVID, but also 2008, 2009, 2010. And we were smart enough to listen to you then also. If you were to say kind of last thoughts to the real estate agents, because I know that, realtors are really in a polarizing moment. They've recently passed some legislation, their world is changing. Some of the dynamics there. I know there's a lot of real estate agents hanging on and going, do I continue to do real estate or do I pack up and do something else? What would you say to the real estate agent community?
Well, there's 2 things. One of them is to answer just that question. They're in a challenging time. Sales are off. They're going to turn around. And now they're going to find themselves short again of inventory, the bigger demand than they got product for. And so they're not going to have to go through the heavy renegotiation and deals falling apart. All that, or people can't get qualified. All of that's hurting them now, besides the soft market. All that's going to change to their benefit. That's all good times coming right now. All that's good. Well, there's something else I would like to talk about just for a second. And I'll tell you what that is. The reason that real estate agents don't horse around in finding land and brokering land deals, it just takes too long to make the commission. It takes too long to get paid. So what you do, there's an incentive for the buyer of the land, developer or builder, whichever it is, to want to put clauses in the contract to, subject to everything unimaginable. It's subject to zoning, it's subject to this, subject to that. And then even after you get it zoned, they want to put clauses in there that drag it out until they get the preliminary plat done and approved, and they get this done and they get it approved. And then some of them will even like to have it all the way developed. And when they're going to record a plat, which they found a way delaying that, then they finally close and they finally get their money. So I've been working on something different. A new commission structure. It's not a commission, it's a payment structure. There's going to be such a demand for lots and land that we have to have more real estate agents. I mean, talk about tons involved. So I've been trying to figure out how to recreate for the whole United States now. I really believe that it's going to spread that fast. A new way of handling paying real estate agents that creates an insane incentive that almost equals their incentive to do houses. I have it headed just today, my second round of typing on it, and I just need to simplify it a little bit. But that right there, Matthew, when I get that done, I'll have to get you that. So you can
I love that.
Oh, and I really believe it's going to be accepted. And I'm going to get some larger builders. I'm going to say, now, Miss Charles, why would you try to do that anyway? Because I said we need the help. We need the help, and we don't have the help. And so, and all they have as an incentive is to drag it out, the closing, so they don't have to pay all those millions of dollars. Well, I've got it working out so they have to make payments a certain way during the process that are not draws and not advances, and they're non-refundable. They're not going to be happy, but they'll be okay. They'll all survive. I know the margins. I know what's going on.
That's right.
And they'll be fine.
Yeah.
That one thing for the realtors is critical, Matthew. It will change the industry for the whole stinking United States. It will change it. And it will help everybody. It will help the developers. It will help find the land. It'll help pull it off.
That's right. No, well, and I think that's necessary. Seeing the inventory of land myself and knowing for the Middle Tennessee market, for the Central Kentucky market, where we're selling, there's so few players that are really in the land circles.
Oh,
and man, there's so much to be had, which some self-education and things, that's necessary. But, for us, we're huge just proponents and believers in the real estate agent, the community, the need to have them in the industry as guides for home buyers. In 2021 during the market boom, there was a lot of builders that got a little confident and started cutting their commissions.
Yeah.
And we never even considered that. We never changed what we do that because we know not only the work they put in, but how necessary it is navigating a homeowner through those kinds of things. And to think, I know some of the challenges they have is technology, and the different things that are coming out that people are more apt to consider not using a real estate agent and maybe using some sort of app-based thing. And I just don't see that as a reality that I think others consider doing when you really consider the not only complexity of the process, but all the different ways a real estate transaction can be mishandled. I think people coming alongside the real estate agent community and also helping them bridge those gaps where the market's soft the way it is. And I think you just hit a huge gold mine in that thought that the next gap isn't going to be them selling houses. It's going to be inventory is so low.
Yes.
And it's going to be in crisis mode, even worse than it was before. And the best thing they can do, not only for the industry, for themselves, but for the industry long term, is to get into land. 100%.
But see, they don't do that now because of the delay.
Yes.
Not that they can't do it; they just don't.
But you've always said when you're overcoming obstacles, you got to get creative.
Got to get creative. So I have this. Maybe we can close this up with a little story.
Yes, please.
Because and I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set this up so that nobody's gonna call me to try to get this. But I'm gonna give it to you So if any of these real estate agents that are listening to this thing would like to get this, they're going to have to contact you. It's my way of getting them to talk to you and create relationships. I'm trying to play Cupid here.
I love that.
So years ago, I'm talking about probably 35, maybe 40 years. I tells you how old I am. I couldn't figure out in this one city why these particular real estate agents were absolutely superstars. I said, well, maybe they work harder. Maybe they're, good looking. Maybe they get nicer cars. Maybe they got and so for about probably approaching 10, 15 years in there and a couple other cities, I tried to always figure out why were they getting superior results? Why had they come to the place of being superior in what they did? Because superior agents get superior results. Just simple as that. I started to notice that there was 9 things that all of them did. They all did the same 9. Now, I'm sure might be a little something else, but I could never find that. Maybe I was thick-headed, but it was 9. And so over time, I have formalized those 9, and then I took and looked at probably a quarter of all real estate agents and find out why they're flunkies. Just can't make it work. And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just telling you, they just can't figure it out. And so, you know what they were doing? The exact opposite of those 9. They were specialists on the worst 9, of the reverse of that, and the superior agents were specialists on the right side of the 9.
Wow.
And so let's do this here. I will tell you this here. Nobody watching this. That if they, and I'm not trying to be foolish here, but if they focus and pull off, you know why those 9? Let me tell you what happens. If they do those 9 things consistently, you know what it does? It makes them confident. Each one, the net result of each one is it makes them confident. And confidence becomes fears. It overcomes inadequacies. It makes them feel secure, makes them feel better about life. And so if somebody's coming along that's a little strong personality, a buyer with his wife, and he wants to show his wife how popular he can be, strong, and they don't cover down because they're confident in all those 9 things. And I've never hardly ever seen people asking beyond those 9.
I love that.
It's incredible. And it's all about those 9 things they do consistently, bringing that confidence in their life. So I'm going to get you that.
Thank you.
If they want to get it, they can get it from you.
Come on.
Yeah, then they'll have to call you, and they can suck up to you, and they can do all the right things. Let's do that, okay?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for continuing to be an asset to the industry.
I appreciate that, man.
Thanks,
That's great, Matthew.